Every year, the internet loses its mind over the same 5 games. The ones with the biggest marketing budgets, the loudest trailers, and the most pre-order bonuses. And while everyone was busy arguing about those games, dozens of absolutely incredible titles dropped with barely a whisper. No hype, no headlines, just great games that quietly released and got completely buried. 2026 has honestly been one of the most underrated years in gaming history, and most people don't even know it yet. Today, we're changing that. We dug deep, we did the homework, and we pulled out 20 games from 2026 that you almost certainly missed, but absolutely need to play. Don't sleep on these.
This game introduced the Nemesis system, and somehow people forgot about it. The concept. Enemies have ranks, personalities, and memories of you. An orc you spared becomes obsessed with revenge. An orc you shamed becomes paranoid. The revenge system creates organic, dynamic gameplay where encounters matter dozens of hours later. The combat is solid, the world looks incredible, and the story uses Tolkien's universe in interesting ways. It got overshadowed by other releases, but this game is genuinely innovative. The Nemesis system is the most important design innovation from that generation that people never talk about. Motion Twin made a roguelike Metroidvania that people slept on because it looked indie. Every run is different because weapons and ability combinations are endless. The pixel art is gorgeous, the animations are fluid, and the combat feels weighted and satisfying. Death isn't punishment, it's progression. You're constantly unlocking new weapons, new biomes, new ways to play. The boss fights are memorable, the level design is clever, and the difficulty curve is perfect. It's been out for years, and people are still discovering new builds and strategies. This indie game puts most AAA roguelikes to shame. If you haven't played it, you're missing an addiction loop that's hard to break.
Hemply created a puzzle game that's deceptively simple but philosophically genius. The basic concept, you push blocks with words on them to change the rules of the game. Baba is you means you control Baba. Baba is wall means Baba becomes solid. Flag is win means reaching the flag wins the level. You're literally editing the game's logic to solve puzzles. The genius escalates as you progress. Some puzzles will destroy your brain. The aesthetic is minimalist, the soundtrack is minimalist, but the puzzle design is some of the best ever created. This indie game got overshadowed by bigger releases, but it's genuinely one of the most important puzzle games ever made. If you like thinking games, this is mandatory. The Sniper Elite series is criminally underrated. Sniper Elite Resistance is a masterclass in tactical stealth gameplay. You're a sniper infiltrating Nazi-occupied France, taking out targets from range. The gunplay is incredibly satisfying, with physics-based bullet trajectories. Environmental kills are creative. Stealth rewards patience. The campaign is solid, the story keeps you engaged, and the level design encourages multiple approaches. It doesn't have the mainstream appeal of other action franchises, but it's genuinely one of the most polished action games you can play. AAA studios should study how Rebellion makes games. This franchise deserves way more love. Deck 13 created a mind-bending sci-fi game in 2025 that barely anyone noticed. You're a spaceship captain trying to escape a decaying planet, but there's a catch. There are multiple versions of you, and they're all competing for survival. The narrative branches wildly based on which version of yourself you prioritize. The story explores identity, sacrifice, and what it means to be human. It's cerebral, it's emotional, and the writing is phenomenal. It got lost because it released late in 2025 during the AAA spam season, but this is a thinking person's sci-fi game. If you want something that challenges you mentally and emotionally, this is it. Fool's Theory, a studio with ex-Witcher 3 developers, created an RPG set in 1905 Warsaw that almost nobody played. You're Victor Scholsky, a thaumaturge who commands spirits called solitors and reads impressions from objects like a magical detective. The setting is phenomenally researched, the choices are genuinely impactful, and the magic system is completely fresh. You're interacting with historical figures like Rasputin, solving real problems faced by historical Warsaw, and your decisions shape the entire narrative. The voice acting is inconsistent, but the story, world building, and roleplay opportunities are phenomenal. This flew under the radar, but it's one of 2024's best RPGs. Everyone's talking about Baldur's Gate 3, but they're ignoring this gem. Bloober Team remade the classic 1992 horror game and created something genuinely terrifying. You've got David Harbour and Jodie Comer as the protagonists trapped in a mansion during a dark ritual. The sound design is absolutely oppressive. The atmosphere is suffocating. The story unfolds between characters, creating a branching narrative that changes based on who you're playing. The survival horror elements are tense, the puzzles are clever, and the pacing builds dread perfectly. It flew under the radar in 2024 because horror games don't get mainstream attention, but this is a masterclass in creating atmosphere. If you like survival horror, this is essential. Zenovia Interactive released one of the best run-and-gun games in years, and nobody's talking about it. Neon Inferno is a cyberpunk assassin game that took the classic Metal Slug formula and made it feel fresh. You're blasting through New York City with gun-blazing action that's incredibly stylish. The pixel art is insane, neon infused with lighting effects that look like Streets of Rage meets Cyberpunk 2077. The genius part? You can aim into the background and foreground simultaneously, having depth most run-and-guns don't have. You've got a laser sword that deflects bullets and enters bullet time. The difficulty is brutal. Co-op is chaotic. Boss fights are memorable. Neon Inferno released in November 2025 and flew completely under the radar. If you love arcade games but want something modern and stylish, this is mandatory. Ben's studio created a post-apocalyptic motorcycle game that got trashed on release, but has been redeemed by patches. You're Deacon St. John, a biker trying to survive in a world overrun by zombie-like creatures called freakers. The bike riding mechanics are incredible. You're always managing fuel, parts, and durability. The combat is brutal and rewarding. The story about loss, grief, and redemption is phenomenal, and the character work is phenomenal. Sam Witwer gives an underrated performance as Deacon. The game respects your time with no pointless collectibles or grinding. On PS5 with patches, this is a hidden gem that proves Ben knows how to make compelling open-world experiences. This open-world action game came out in 2015 during a crowded release window and got forgotten. You're Max in a wasteland building vehicles and fighting raiders in brutal combat. The car combat is incredible. Customizing your car and taking on convoys is addictive. But the hand-to-hand combat steals the show. The counter system is so satisfying. The animations are weighty, and when you execute a perfect combo, it feels phenomenal. The world is gorgeous. The story is surprisingly solid, and the mission variety keeps things fresh. It's not a perfect open-world game, but it's genuinely one of the best action games ever made. People slept on it because it released alongside The Witcher 3 and Fallout 4. Huge mistake. Platinum Games made an action exclusive on Switch that somehow didn't blow up. You're a police officer commanding a legion, a symbiotic creature you're bonded with. The combat is insanely stylish, the action is fluid, and managing your legion while fighting creates a unique action experience. Combos feel incredible, the boss fights are memorable, and the progression system rewards skill. The story's decent, the voice acting is good, and the presentation is phenomenal. It looked like a Switch exclusive deep cut, but it's genuinely one of Platinum's best games. If you own a Switch and haven't played this, you're sleeping on pure action game perfection. This is a masterpiece that somehow everyone forgot about. You're a wolf goddess bringing life back to a dying world using a celestial brush. The art direction is hand-drawn watercolor style that looks absolutely stunning even today. What makes it special is the gameplay. You're literally painting the world to solve puzzles and fight enemies. Drawing a line becomes a sword slash. Drawing a circle becomes a bomb. Drawing two dots become eyes that see invisible objects. The creativity is unmatched. The story is charming, the characters are likable, and the world rewards exploration. The remaster on modern platforms looks gorgeous. This game should be in everyone's library, but somehow it's flying under the radar. One of the most creative games ever made. Dontnod made a vampire RPG where you're a doctor struggling between saving lives and feeding on them. You wake up as Dr. Jonathan Reed in 1918 London during the Spanish flu pandemic, and now you're a vampire trying to understand why. The premise alone is fascinating. You're torn between your medical oath and your hunger. The story unfolds through choices that have real weight. Who you kill affects districts, NPCs, and the ending you get. The world building is incredible. The atmosphere is gothic and haunting, and the character interactions are phenomenal. It got lost because the combat's clunky, but that's almost beside the point. This game nailed what it was actually trying to be, a moral tragedy about becoming a monster. This 2012 game came out during a decade of throwaway military shooters, but Spec Ops asked a genuine question: what's the cost of war? You're commanding a military squad through a war-torn Dubai that's being consumed by sand. The gameplay is solid cover-based shooting, but the story? That's where it destroys you. Without spoiling anything, this game deconstructs gaming itself. The writing is phenomenal, the twists will break your brain, and the ending will haunt you. People forgot about it because it looked like another generic military game, but it's one of the most important narratives in gaming. Everyone should experience this at least once. Arcane Studios made a time loop assassination game that got overshadowed by massive AAA releases. You're stuck on an island repeating the same day, and your only escape is killing 8 targets before the loop resets. The genius part? It's a sandbox where you can approach every situation differently. Stealth, guns blazing, power combos, it's all viable. The story twists are incredible. The dialogue between Colt and Juliana is hilarious, and the gameplay loop rewards creativity instead of punishing failure. The art direction is phenomenal, with a retro 60s vibe that looks like nothing else. People slept on this because it released on PS5 exclusive early, but it's been on PC for years. If you haven't played it, you're missing out on one of the best immersive sims of the decade.